Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. For those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Nigel and I am the creator of Offline to Online, the place that shows you how to transition from your job into your own business. So here at Offline to Online, I'm going to show entrepreneurs, small business owners, busy professionals how to get more leads, earn more profits, and create that massive residual income in their part-time so that you can give up your job, stay at home, travel, whatever it is you want to do, and increase that net worth at the same time. So today's subject is going to be my struggle and how I got to be successful in the ATM business. So the question is, am I successful today because I was lucky? Is it because I was from England and I'm better educated? Am I prettier than some? Am I taller than some? Was I given a lot of money? A lot of people look at you when you're successful in the business and they'll say, well, you were just lucky. I'm too short, I'm too ugly, I'm too pretty, I'm too fat, I'm too thin. You know, there's a lot of excuses we give and wonder why someone was just lucky to be successful in the business. So I want to go back over my story, not only how I became successful in the business of the ATM world for 23 years now, but how I started out. I want to go back to my upbringing first. I grew up in a small town called Tewkesbury in England. I lived there with my mum, my dad, my brother and sister. And we had a pretty good upbringing as far as family life. Great grandparents, you know, they were just wonderful. But let's talk first about my school life. It was brutal. I was a young kid that was dorky, without the brains. I was covered in zits all over my face, acne all over my face, like the size of boils. I was an absolute horror show, and the kids just let me know it. I was picked on, teased, the kids took the piss out of me all the time. I really was not the most popular kid in school. I didn't feel like I was accepted, I didn't feel like I belonged there. I couldn't learn. I had a learning disability and they considered me more special needs. And they wanted to send me to the special school for the mildly handicapped, perhaps. It was a school for the kids who didn't know how to learn and you just needed much more help. Well, being from a small town, my parents didn't send me for whatever reason. So I kind of consider myself lucky on one part, but not lucky in the other. And then that song came out, Making Plans for Nigel. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. Kind of goes, yeah, we're making plans for Nigel because Nigel can't help himself. Nigel even has to have a special mug. You know, the lyrics are very demeaning and they kind of fit with my life back then. At the age of 16, I was invited to leave school. The headmaster called me in and he said, look, you've never done well. You're pretty much stupid. You can go sweep floors, you'll work a factory, you can work the farms. The fact that I was from a farm rural area, that's pretty much all the jobs there, the few factories. Pretty little town though. But one thing, growing up, going through school, being picked on a lot, it wasn't until my younger brother started bodybuilding, who was actually quite popular in school. He's the kind of kid you want to be around. He's funny. He's just a great guy to be around. And people loved him. But it wasn't until he got to bodybuilding and got bigger that people really gave me a little leeway and stopped, you know, giving me as much crap because they'd have to deal with Steve. So I was kind of lucky there. My family was really good. My mum and my dad, they always told me, you know, regardless what you do in school, you can do whatever you want. And living in a small town, I had no idea what that meant because I had no education. Where can I go? At 13, I was able to get a job washing dishes. At 14, I was able to work the farms. And at 16, my dad says to me, well, why don't you come work on the swap meets with me on the markets? And I kind of reluctantly said yes, you know, being my dad and I were very much alike, and we kind of argued a lot. But I'll tell you what, the one thing that I got from England was my dad's teaching me how to be in business, how to be a good salesman, and what it meant to work for yourself. So he kind of gave me that bug. So I always wanted to work for myself, not so much about the money, but I wanted to prove to everyone that I could do this. I'm better than this. There's no reason for me to use my no education as an excuse. Now I've got to say though, if you're going to be in business and you do go through school, you're going to have a much better advantage if you've got some common sense and some brains, I should say, to go through it. So by the time I was 17, I was able to buy my first car, which was good, but the trouble is with a car back then, it's very expensive to own a car, because it was back then in 80. So back in 82, gas was still about $2.50–3 a gallon, and so you really couldn't go far anyway. By the time I was 17, I was able to get a job in the metalwork factory on the production line. I really didn't enjoy that at all. I remember my first paycheck and I said, oh my goodness, I worked all week for that. I was very disappointed. I then, at 18, almost 19, got a job with a friend working in the window factory. A little bit better paid, not as stinky, not as smelly. Kind of enjoyed that job. Finally, I'd saved enough money by the age of 21 to finally leave. But I didn't know where to go. And I looked at Australia. I thought about Israel and go do the kibbutz. And that almost came off, but then backed out of that. But then a friend, Martin, who I'd known since I was very, very young, he called us up one day and said, hey, I'm in California. And he says, I'm over here in California, I'm having a great time, I've got a job, I go to the beach every day. You know, he's telling us his good life he's having. He says, why do you come on over and visit? We go downtown, we have a big old party, everyone's saying goodbye. And my brother turned around and says, you know what, I think I'm coming with you. So that day before, my brother buys his ticket, and me and him, we get on a plane, and we fly 12 hours and we land in LAX. It's 7 o'clock at night. Martin picks us up in this big American car. I went, whoa, that's a big car. Because in England we were just used to little cars. And he says, okay, we're going to the bar. And we went to a little bar next to the beach, next to the pier in Huntington Beach. We finally get out of there an hour later. And he says, hey, we're going to a friend's house. More partying. Well, the last thing I want to do is party. I am just out of it. But the trouble is, I've got nowhere to go. We hadn't set up accommodation. I don't know what we were thinking. I think that I thought I could just come over here, go grab a tent and just go sleep on the beach. You know, maybe it'll be comfortable. It'd be great, I could just do that. Come to find out, it's against the law. So, come about midnight, we're leaving the party, and then we all realise, where are we going to sleep? Nobody had considered where we're going to stay. Martin's living in a back garden, in a garage in a back garden. The couple living there, Bill and Regina, had allowed him to convert the garage into a studio, and he paid rent to live there, which worked out for everybody. So he threw us a blanket and said, look, the best we can do tonight is, you can sleep on the grass. It's a warm night. So I'm so tired, I crash on the grass, I'm out. But then I get woken up in the morning about 7 o'clock by a friend of Martin's comes over and says, hey, I'm looking for a couple of people to work. I got to go to Palm Springs, I got to get a foundation done, who would like to come with me? My brother says, hey, not a chance in hell. Martin says, hey, no, we've already made plans, we're going to Magic Mountain. So the lads that all came round, they all go off to Magic Mountain. I had very little money. I'd only come over with £600 in my pocket, and that's about $900 at the time. And I said, Charlie, I'll work. I'm tired, but I'll work. I need the money. It was 100+ degrees heat digging a trench. By the time we'd finished, I was so tired. I'm crashing out in the car. But then, to cop it off, 2 miles or so, whatever it was, before we get home, we break down his little Ford Fiesta. We end up walking home. By the time we got home, everyone was getting back from Magic Mountain. Next day, we go over to the hostel and we stay there a couple of nights. But then we talk to the old couple. Martin talks to him and says, hey, you know, Bill, Regine, would you mind if these guys put a tent up in your back garden? And they thought about it and said, you know, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, we'll charge you $5 a night to stay each person. Great. So me and my brother, we're camped in the back garden. Well, it wasn't long before 2 or 3 other people decided to do the same thing because they were all coming over from England. And so we ended up having a place called Tent City for all the English people in Huntington Beach. Martin had put a fence up around the garden so you couldn't see in. I probably ended up with 4 or 5 tents in the back garden. So old Bill, he's loving life because now he can get a little money coming in. You know, he's a little more comfortable. 3 months later, my brother turns around and says, or someone turns around and says, hey, there's an apartment across the street for rent, why don't we try and get it? My money's just about gone. I only had a little bit of money. And I didn't have the common sense to keep it and save it. So it turns out, a few of us get together and we decide to go for the apartment. One of us applies for it and we get it. Well, 4 of us move into this apartment and we have a double bed in the bedroom and now, where we find our bed? We found a bed and the couches all in the trash in the alleyways. So after a short while, we had all this stuff to sleep on. So anyway, it wasn't long before enough people came from England over looking for a place to stay. We ended up with 7 people living in this 1-bedroom apartment. So the landlord comes over one day and says, you know, there's too much noise, you've got too many people living here, and evicts us. So next we moved to a 2-bedroom. And all 7 of us moved to this 2-bedroom for $750 a month. Well, we couldn't afford the $525 between us. We certainly can't afford $750 between us. We're working day labor at the corner, trying to get work for $5 an hour. Sometimes you get an hour's work for the day, sometimes you get 10 hours a day, but you don't work a full week. So anyway, 7 of us move in. We're scrimping and scraping for a week. It's, you know, trying to figure out what we're going to do for rent, because we've already paid first and last. And 2 more people move in. So now we've got 8 guys and 1 girl living in a 2-bedroom. That was fun. 3 couches in the living room, 2 double beds, 2 people in bed. It was just a mess. One day the landlord comes around again and he says, who have you got living here? He freaked out. He goes in, says, get out. We all kind of leave and kind of just ignore him. We come back and the toilet has been removed. He puts it by the side of the hole and just sits it there. And that was his first mistake. He should have took it with him. I come home from work and one of the roommates, I won't tell you which one it is, one of the roommates has used the toilet. Instead of going to find somewhere else to do his business, it was disgusting. So we had to take that toilet out and get it cleaned up and then put it back in. We had Martin put it back in for us. So needless to say, it didn't take long before we were evicted from there. So after about 18 months of this, moving around and doing this, doing that, I had enough. I didn't know what to do. I did enjoy going to the beach every day when I was working. I did enjoy that. I thought I was going to come over here and it was going to be easy. I thought I was going to come over and just work for some rich people and live the great life. I couldn't get the work. I really couldn't get a business running. I tried mail order business. I tried some real estate stuff. And I just couldn't make it work. I left back to England thinking I could just go back and everything be like it was before. I get on the plane, I fly back into England, my mum picks me up, I go back to my old home, I got my old bedroom back, And my mum says, here's 10 quid, why don't you go off down the pub and have a drink? Great. I run off down to the pub and I run into the Winking Frog. And the Winking Frog is packed. And I'm looking around for somebody I know. Bearing in mind, before I left, every single face in there would have known me. Every single face, 18 months early, everybody would have known me and said, hey Nigel, welcome back. Not one person in that packed bar did I know. They were all younger and all new faces. I said, they've got to be at the Black Bear. I go around to the Black Bear. No one there. I go around the corner to the White Bear. Maybe they're in there. Nope, nobody in there. Come back, I go down the Anchor. Nope, no one there. The Swan, the Duke, the Nottingham Arms. Nobody anywhere. I went, wow, where is everybody? It turns out everybody had the same idea and left. This is a retirement community. It's not where people stay once they get old enough. They all go that direction. And so I went home very disappointed. But I kept coming back downtown and looking, and I eventually ran into a guy I knew called Kevin. And I started telling Kevin, you know, Kevin, the weather over there is beautiful and the beaches are great and we just got enough work to live and da-da-da. I kind of hyped it up a little bit more than I should because I didn't tell him the lonely part and so on. I told him all the good things. And he turns around to me with his drink in his hand and he pokes me on the chest and he says, Nigel, if you acting like it so much, why don't you piss off back then? And I went, holy crap, did he just say it to me? I couldn't believe it. He was so upset with me. He says, I've got to live here. And I was just heartbroken. So now, I'm not only broke, I've got no money, I've got no job, I've got no car, I got my home to live in, so I got one more thing that I hit in California. Because when you're in that cycle, you've got no car because I got no money. I got no money because I got no job. I got no place to live because I got no job. I got no car because I got no job and no money. It's a circle that goes around and round. So I go off looking for a job. I go to my old window company. No, sorry, we got no jobs. I go off to the old metal company. Nah, got no jobs. I go to every place in town, no one's willing to hire me. I finally go to my old haunt in Twinning, about 5 miles away, and I see the owner, who's the same owner of the greenhouses picking where I used to pick tomatoes. And I said to him, I said, do you know, can I get a job? He says, yeah, it's a tomato season, we're going to be hiring. I went down there and he gave me a job. Well, outside it's raining, it's drizzly, it's damp, it's kind of cold. When you go in the greenhouse, wearing your jeans and your jacket, it's boiling hot. So I'm working this 8-10 hours a day, every day for very little money. For about $2 and equivalent to $2 and something an hour, maybe $3 an hour. Wasn't very much money. I finally saved enough money to get an airfare ticket. I borrowed some money off my mum and dad and I said, look, I'm sorry, I cannot stay here. As bad as it was for me and as lonely as it was having no money, no car, no job, no place to live, I gotta make it work or I'm done. I don't know what to do, Mum. She says, then go back and make the most of it. I'll miss you, but go on back. I said goodbye to me nan, me granddad. I said goodbye to me mum and me dad and me sister. And I just left. Once again, Martin picked me up with my brother. And I said it's going to be different this time. I go back to Tent City. I find different couches. I do whatever I can. I go back to the corner to work. And I'm looking through the newspaper. And I'm looking at different things. And they have this school, American bartending school. It's taking on people to study to be a bartender. And I went down there and they said, yep, Mr. Dix, we can train you to be a bartender, and remember, when you sell a drink for $3 and you're going to get a $1 tip, and if you serve 50 people, you're going to make $50 that day. So they had me fill out the application, but at the bottom it said $3,000 please, and my heart sank. I said, I've got no money, I'm broke, I'm homeless. They said, don't worry, you can fill out a student loan form and apply for a student loan. I applied for the student loan and they gave it to me. I went, wow. But then I realized, how am I going to get through the testing of this to get, because I don't remember much. I just had a hard time remembering things and learning. So I went and did some research, and I found this book called Memory Power, by Harry Lorraine. And I took this course at this right before the bartending school started. I had about 3 months to wait before I could get in. And so I took this memory course and it changed everything for me. All of a sudden I had a memory that I could actually use. This book was fantastic. I went into that bartending school, memorized everything I could, and just passed it with royal colours. And I get my first job at the Moose Lodge. They hated me. I was the worst bartender they'd ever seen. And all I was really doing was doing beer, but I had no skills. So I didn't make any money and they fired me. So I go off again looking for a job. One thing the bartending school gave me was the confidence to go find a job. I end up working at the Red Lion Hotel, at the Red Lion Hotel at Bristol and Baker in Costa Mesa. A little bit more money, but not much. About $15, $20 a shift, plus hourly, but they gave me benefits. Didn't need them, I was young. But I had a pretty good time. Got along great with people. My next course I took, I bought the Anthony Robbins course, and I took that. That really gave me the confidence with people. It again changed everything for me. I was able to relate to customers. They actually started tipping me. I actually started making money. But then I saw in the paper a job that said Disneyland Hotel is hiring for bartenders. I had 3 things I wanted to do. 1, I wanted to work in Hawaii. 2, I wanted to work the cruise ships. And 3, I wanted to work for Disney. Now, here I am, this young kid with long hair down on my shoulder, curly long hair, and Disney said, you've got the job. I passed all the testing with flying colours, 100%. In fact, when I took the test, they said, would you like a calculator? I said, no, I don't need that. So that memory course, now Tony Robbins course, really paid off. I get the job bartending in the hotel for Disney. But the first thing they tell me to do, I got to cut my hair off. As short as I got it now from long hair, and I went, wow! I couldn't believe it, I had to cut my hair. But I wanted the job so bad. I became very well known across the world, because people from all over the world came in and they'd write back to me, and they'd come back the next year and they'd see me. They go, hi Nige, how you doing? And because I took the memory course, I remember every single person that came in that bar, and every single person by name I could remember, which was pretty damn cool at the time. So eventually I figured out the hard way. There's one rule that Disney has, because I was always in trouble in the office, and they finally had enough of me and they said, look, you are not here to have a good time. That's the customer's job. And by the way, you're fired. I lost my job. Not again. I think I've been fired from every job. So anyway, I go off and I start looking for another job. I loved my time at Disney. I had such a blast. The customers loved me, but the management they had a big old sticker up their butt. They were not keen on me having a good time. So I end up in Los Angeles after looking everywhere, and I go out for the night with my buddy, and we go to this gentleman's club, and while we're in there having a drink, we saw it was a Caucasian couple who owned the place. In fact, it was two white couples, and I got talking to them, and they said, yeah, we're hiring. And so I said, well, can I fill out an application? They said, no. I said, you just told me you're hiring. Oh, no, they said, we don't do applications. What we do is we put you behind the bar. If you can't bartender, you can't fill out an application anyway. The only way you're going to fill out the application is if you got the job. I was like, great. When can I try out? They said, now. This is Friday night and the bar's packed. They called the other bartender, get out. Put me in there. Oh, by the way, it's an all Spanish speaking bar, except for the waitresses. Every client in there was Spanish speaking. Wow. First customer comes up to the bar. This time I knew no Spanish. He says, ¿Qué pasó? ¿Cómo está? ¿Qué quieres? Vas a hielo? I went, what did you say? Turns out the guy next to him says, he's asking, how you doing? What are you up to? How you doing? And he'd like a glass of ice. I went, oh, is that all he wanted? I was like, wow, how am I going to do this? So anyway, with some help with some people who suddenly spoke broken English, I got through the night. They loved what I did. They gave me the job. So this is 1993. I've been bartending since 1990. Not long into my job, I make enough money to get my first apartment, my own one-bedroom apartment, a little place by the beach. $525, my first break. So now I've got my first and last paid. I've moved in my little place, and while I'm at the bar, I decide to try and do my business again. Well, I find the 3D camera network marketing company. Flopped. I tried another mail order company. Flopped. I tried the diet cookie. Big loser. Ended up with boxes and boxes of cookies. They just went stale. Ended up giving them away. Couldn't sell them. Then I got into the Ozone Air Purifier. And I put like $7,000 into these products and thinking, I'm just going to sell these things. They were great. I mean, they could deodorize dirty shoes. They were that good. They were the ozone things. Fantastic. Still have them today. All these years later, because I bought so many of them, I was stuck with them. And they cost $300 to $500, $300 or $400 each. And to this day, I still have half a dozen of them. That's how many I bought. 7 grand worth of them, thinking I was going to make a fortune. Flopped. Next, I decided to try another business. I went to a fair for entrepreneurs, and I found this guy there called Roland, and I got talking to him. And he says, why don't you try selling pepper spray? He was a rep. He said, I'll give you a good deal. All you got to do is buy $3,000 worth of pepper spray. Ended up, he turned out to be a good friend in the end, and he helped me out, and he said, look, let me be your partner, let's go sell this on the swap meets. So we go out and we do these fairs and we do these events and that, and we flop. So me and him are now partners looking for a new business. He's left the pepper spray company. We finally just had all this pepper spray we couldn't sell, and I ended up just throwing it away. I lost my butt again. But then we came across someone that said, you know, I'm in the ATM business, you know, have you ever thought about it? And I said, Roland, what do you think? So we go off down to this company to see what they're doing. And we sit down with Sam, the owner, and he says, yep, this is how it works, and we're going to pay you $3,000 commission every time you sell an ATM. And every time it does a transaction, we're going to pay you 10 cents. I said, great. I quickly signed, and Roland like nudges me, and he says, hey, what are you doing? When I got out of there, he's like, I told you to not do that. We're not going to sign with these people. And I went, why not? Because I got a bit excited about it. Anyway, he tears up the contract, and we go to another company. Now, what he said was, we're not signing up with this company here with Sam to be their rep, to be their puppy. That's not what I want, he said. I want to be my own guy. I don't want to work for them as a salesman. Because he said, look in the contract right here. If you don't sell 2 ATMs a month, you lose all the residual. Well, I didn't want that. So he got off to this other company. Offers the same deal, 10 cents a transaction. However, he says you're your own guy and it's your residual. You don't have a minimum per month. You don't have a quota. Things are looking great. I'm working the bar at night. I'm working all night till 2 in the morning, 6 till 2. I get home at 3 every morning. I get up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I go back out and I sell ATM machines. It wasn't long after we got in the ATM business that Roland left. He decided not to stay. We broke up our partnership. We weren't making enough money to support us both, and he went on his way and he went off for the mortgage company. That's the last I saw of him. But then it wasn't long after that before I was able to have a break, sell enough machines to get a residual income of about $2,000 a month at 10 cents a transaction. So one day I'm driving home and I almost fell asleep on the freeway. In fact, I think I did. I'm just about to swerve off the road. There's not much traffic around, thank God. And his bright light flashes into my car and wakes me up, shocks me. And it turns out to be a police officer driving by. If you ever thought you got God on your side that day, or an angel on your shoulder, and the police officer shines his light, does some hand signals and drives on. How he didn't pull me over, give me a ticket for reckless driving, I have no idea. Thank God I had that angel on my shoulder that night. I got home, I was scared. I wasn't really making enough money at the bartending, and I wasn't making enough money at my ATMs to really do one or the other all the time, because it just wasn't the lifestyle I wanted. So I had to make a decision. Am I going to quit the ATMs and just keep the residual I've got, or am I going to quit the bar and just make it go? I went to work that night with a heavy heart and I said, Bob, I love you, but here's my 2-week notice. I quit. I gave my 2-week notice. It was a sad day. I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm working too many hours. It wasn't long after that I got another shock. Couldn't have been more than a few months, when I got a call from the company I'm working with, and they said, oh, by the way, we'd like to send you a check for $6,000. I said, why would you do that? Oh, I'm sorry, we're buying your contracts, you're out. In fact, you can still work and you can still go get more contracts and you can still get more business, but the contracts you have, we're selling them to somebody else. I said, what do you mean you're selling my contracts? No, you're wrong, he said. They're not your contracts. They're my contracts and I pay you 10 cents. Come to find out, not just the fact I had no choice, he could have just said, it was in the contract, he could have just said, get the hell out. He says, you can take the money and leave, or you can leave anyway. I was devastated. He sends me the check for $6,000, just to come to find out, not only was I underpaid at 10 cents, I should have been making at that time, because times were different, I should have been making 25 cents. I'd signed the contracts under his name. I lost it all. All my customers are gone. Now I'm stuck with $6,000, 3 months. Now I've got 3 months to make up my whole income. What am I going to do? I've got no job. I've now, after 3 months, got no residual, which was barely enough to get by as it was. So I had this crazy idea to go out and buy ATMs. I'm going to make it rich. I'm going to buy ATMs. I went out and I borrowed money off my parents. I borrowed money off my two friends. It wasn't 6 months in before I realized several things. One, I couldn't afford to fix the machines when they broke down. 2, I didn't have enough money to put in them. And 3, I was spending the money I was putting in them. The machines all broke down at the same time. Some kind of manufacturer defect. I called up Tidell, the company. I said, look, the machines are broken down. Can you come and fix them? Not a problem, they said, but the trouble is we've got to charge you to come find out what's wrong with them. I said, well, how much is that going to cost? $250, please. I went, I haven't got 250 bucks. Then you're going to have to tell us what's wrong with it by working yourself. So just as a coincidence, I end up on the phone with them, with the technicians, walking me through figuring out what's wrong with it. Turns out there was a manufacturer defect and they helped me fix it on the phone and they sent me the parts. But it wasn't long after that I realized now I just didn't have enough money to load the machines. But my big break was I was able to sell the machines back to the locations who I had the machines with, and they agreed to buy the machines at a big loss to me. So now I'm really in the hole. But my big break was people started hearing about the fact I could fix ATMs now. Now obviously I couldn't, because all I did was sit in front of the machine, get on the phone with the company of that particular ATM and say, okay, tell me what to do. Press the red, press the green, poke the red one. Turn it off, turn it on. Okay, there's your problem. I became a pretty good tech. I'm stuck massively in debt, but I'm actually now still selling machines and fixing machines for every company that I could find. And I start making some pretty good money. Shortly there, some years after, I took over someone's ATM as a lease, and back then it was $250. And I gradually built my way up into the ATM business again, one at a time. My first ATM, to load it again, I took a credit card and I maxed it out and I started with one ATM and I put the profit back in and I load the second one, put the profit back in, I load the third one, put the profit back in. Of course, back then I really didn't know everything I know today about how you can get free ATMs, how you never have to buy an ATM and you can make money from day one. I didn't do that. I did it the hard way. And that's what I'm here to teach, is how to do it the easy way and not have to put all this money out first. Today I not only own ATMs, I not only sell ATMs, fix ATMs, but I also do events, casino events, fairgrounds, swap meets, you name it, we do it. Because that's where the money is. But I've even taken it further now. I make money with these events. I make money on accounts, on some accounts now, I don't even load the accounts. So I've come a long way in the business. This one here, for example. This is one of my favorite machines. This is a Minibank 1800. It's an older machine now, but it's a very good machine. This one's one of my event ATMs. We take them out there, we put them down, we fill them up with cash, and we come back that next day or the weekend after, and we pick them up. I look back, and when people tell me it was just easier back then, and people tell me I was just lucky, and people think I was better educated just because I'm English, you've got to look at someone's struggle. So here at Offline to Online, we're going to help you through that struggle. We're going to help you make money from day one. You're going to put the hours in, you're going to put the time in, but in your part-time, you're not going to go into massive debt, and that's what we're going to teach you. We don't just teach ATMs, we're going to teach you many things about how to go offline to online, for example, in different businesses. That's what we teach here. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, how I went from basically being stupid to starting the business to now I'm lucky because I'm successful. So I appreciate your time, guys. Sorry it's been a bit long. If you would, share and like my video, comment at the bottom. My email address, name, phone number will be all at the end. If you would like to ask any questions, you have any comments, please like my video and share it. And feel free to call me, email me anytime, and I will talk to you guys soon. It's been a pleasure. My name is Nigel. I'll talk to you guys soon.